The house was old, one of those narrow two-story places with creaky stairs and a porch that groaned under your weight. I'd been babysitting for a few years, but this one felt different from the moment I stepped inside. The air was heavier, still, like it hadn't moved in a while. The girl's name was Harper. Sweet, quiet, 6 years old, always reading or coloring. Her parents were out for the evening, some dinner downtown. They gave me the tour, pointed out the emergency numbers, told me not to worry if Harper talked to herself. She has a big imagination, her mom said with a smile. Things started off normal enough. We ate grilled cheese and tomato soup, watched some cartoons, and read a book about a girl who turned into a butterfly. Around 8, I tucked her into bed upstairs in the room at the end of the hall. That's when I heard it. A soft humming. Hi, Slow. A woman's voice. I froze at the top of the stairs. It was coming from above me, but the attic door was shut. I waited a beat, but it stopped. Figured maybe it was the wind or the water heater. When I went to check on Harper later, she was already asleep, curled up with a stuffed bunny. As I turned off the light, I asked out loud, more to myself than anything, "Do you hear that humming?" Without opening her eyes, Harper said, "That's just the lady who watches me sleep. She hums when you're here." My skin prickled. "What lady?" Harper didn't answer. I stood there for a minute, suddenly hyper-aware of how alone I was in this house. Later, around 10, I passed the hallway mirror on the way to the kitchen. One of those tall, antique frames with the glass a little warped from age. I was mid-step when I saw it, a woman standing behind me. Long hair, pale dress, her head tilted slightly. No expression. I spun around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Just the ticking of the clock and the old pipes settling. I didn't sleep. I sat on the living room couch with every light on, baby monitor crackling softly beside me. At one point, I swear I heard the humming again, just for a second. The next day, Harper's mom noticed I looked tired. I debated telling her everything, but decided against it. What would I say? Your daughter sees a ghost, and I saw her too. Still, I asked casually if the house had any history. She laughed. It was built in the 1920s. Probably a ton of history. She wasn't wrong. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror, about the voice, about Harper's words. The next time I babysat, I arrived early. Harper was still at school, and her mom was finishing up a call. I wandered around the house a bit and found myself in the upstairs hallway again. Something compelled me to look behind the mirror. It was heavy, but I managed to tilt it just enough to reveal a crack in the wall. Tucked inside was a folded letter, yellowed and dry with age. The handwriting was slanted and frantic. It wasn't long, it read, "If you see her, you are not alone." I saw her too. She sang to me while I plastered these walls. She hated the noise, hated the change. My wife thinks I'm imagining things. But the girl, she spoke to her too, just like your daughter does. It wasn't signed, but the envelope had a return address, same house. I brought the letter home and started digging. County records, old news clippings, anything. Turns out, back in the 1950s, the house had belonged to a woman named Abigail Monroe. She hosted seances, spiritualist meetings. Her name showed up in a few local papers. Neighbors claimed she could speak to the dead. Some said she went mad after her daughter died of scarlet fever. She died in that house, alone. They found her in the upstairs hallway, just outside what is now Harper's room. I never told Harper's parents. I kept babysitting a few more times, mostly during the day, but I never stayed past dusk again. The last time I was there, Harper was coloring. I sat beside her and asked, "Do you still hear the lady?" She looked up at me, her crayon hovering mid-stroke. "Not when you're here. She doesn't like you." I asked why. Harper smiled. "You looked at her. You weren't supposed to. I haven't been back since. But sometimes late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about that humming, and the mirror, and the look on Harper's face. And I wonder if maybe I should have just ignored it, like the others did."
I was 17 the summer it happened. I'd been babysitting for a few years. Friends of my mom, neighbors, co-workers from the diner. Cedar Rapids isn't exactly a hotbed for anything, let alone crime or paranormal weirdness. It's a quiet, Midwestern kind of town where everyone knows each other's business and nothing ever really happens. Until it did. Laura worked with my mom at the hospital. Her son, Noah, was 5. Bright kid, polite, a little shy. They just moved into a single-story ranch-style home in an older neighborhood. She needed someone to watch him on her evening shifts. Easy money, I figured. Noah was obsessed with cars, lined up his Hot Wheels perfectly in rows on the carpet. He didn't say much at first, but I noticed him glancing at his bedroom closet a lot. I thought it was just nerves. New house, new sitter. One evening, while he was drawing at the kitchen table, he said something strange. "The boy in the closet told me stories today." I laughed, playing along. "What kind of stories?" He didn't answer right away, just stared toward his bedroom door and said, "He doesn't like when I talk about him. He gets quiet when people are listening." Creepy, but still within the bounds of typical kid imagination. I didn't think much of it until I started hearing whispers. It was after 9 p.m. Noah was in bed, baby monitor on in the living room with me. I was scrolling through my phone when I heard a voice. Very faint, not Noah's. A low, almost static-laced whisper. Paused and listened. Stop. I checked on him. He was asleep, breathing softly, lights from his car's nightlight casting a dull glow across the room. The closet door, taped shut with masking tape along the edges, something Laura had mentioned was because it never stayed closed properly, was slightly ajar. I know I shut it. I pushed it closed and pressed the tape back down, telling myself it must have been the air vent or something stupid. But that same whisper returned the next night. This time I heard my name. Not clearly, but it was there. Emmy. My stomach flipped. Noah never called me Emmy. Crept down the hall. His door was closed. No light under it. But the monitor in my hand still hummed softly with static. And something else. Second voice. Too deep to be a child's. Opened the door. Noah was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, staring at the closet. "He's mad," he whispered. "You closed the door." That night, after Noah fell asleep, I opened the closet again. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. It smelled musty, like old cardboard and mildew. I pushed aside a pile of toys and saw something behind an old box of Legos. A stack of yellowed paper. Drawings. Dozens of them. Crude, childlike sketches in crayon. Most were of 2 boys. One smiling, one shaded completely black, no face. The smiling one had a name written above it in blocky letters. Matthew. Each page had a date. The oldest I found was from 2007, the same year I started kindergarten. I showed Laura the drawings the next morning. She went pale and took them with her to work. That afternoon my mom called. She sounded shaken. "Laura talked to someone at the station," she said. The name Matthew showed up in a missing persons case. A boy who disappeared from that exact address in 2008. He was 6. The police never solved it. I searched the local archives at the public library. The story was sparse. Just a paragraph in the Gazette. Local boy Matthew Hughes missing from his bedroom. No signs of forced entry. Closet door was open. Last seen by his mother at bedtime. The article had a photo. A smiling little boy, gap-toothed, holding a toy truck. I recognized the shirt. It was the same one from the drawing. I never babysat at that house again. Laura moved 2 months later. Said she couldn't sleep at night anymore. Noah stopped talking about the boy, according to her. But I still dream about it sometimes. That faint whisper over static. The feeling of being watched from the crack of a door you swore was closed. Some things don't stay buried. And some children never stop waiting for someone to open the door. I was 19, a sophomore at CU Boulder, when I started babysitting for extra cash. The family lived in a quiet, wooded neighborhood just on the edge of town. Their house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, backing up to a tree line that always felt a little too quiet. They had 2 kids, Ella, age 8, and Milo, 5. I'd watched them a few times before, mostly Friday nights. Their parents would head out for dinner, sometimes a movie, and I'd be there till about midnight. That night felt routine. Pizza for dinner, a movie, a few rounds of hide and seek before I tucked them in. Around 9:30 they were both in bed, lights out. I settled on the couch with my laptop and headphones. A low hum of comfort filled the house. TV static, the occasional creak of the old floors. About an hour in, I heard footsteps. Tiny ones. I pulled off my headphones. Ella stood at the top of the stairs, rubbing her eyes. Milo says the man at the window says you're not real, she said. And blinked. What? She looked confused too, like she wasn't sure what she was repeating. That's what he said. He said you're not real. I walked her back to her room. Milo was still awake, staring at the window beside his bed. Who were you talking to, bud? Asked gently. He just pointed at the glass. Him. Nothing was there, of course. Just the dark trees outside. I pulled the curtains and told them it was just their imagination. I went back downstairs a little rattled. A few minutes later, the house's security app pinged my phone. Motion detected. Living room window. I jumped up, heart pounding. The app showed a still image. Something blurry by the window. Could have been a trick of the light. Could have been nothing. But it didn't feel like nothing. I locked all the doors, checked every window. I even texted the parents, just to let them know the system was acting up. They said they'd be home soon, not to worry. Then I saw them. Muddy footprints. Inside. Leading down the hallway from the back door. Froze. That door had been locked. I was sure of it. I walked toward it slowly. The deadbolt was unlocked. The handle slightly turned. Called 911. I told the dispatcher I was babysitting, and I thought someone had gotten inside. I locked myself in the downstairs bathroom with a kitchen knife I'd grabbed. Every minute felt like 10. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. They did a full sweep. No one was found. But when they checked the crawlspace under the house, they found signs of forced entry. Scrapes in the dirt, muddy handprints on the wall leading up to a loose panel in the floorboards near the back hallway. He'd been under the house, waiting. There was no sign of who he was. No fingerprints, no ID, nothing. They never caught him. A detective later told me that if I hadn't noticed the footprints, things could have gone very differently. That he'd likely been watching the house, maybe for days. What stuck with me the most, though, was what Milo said the next day. I stopped by to return a toy he'd left in my bag. He looked up at me and said, "He said he was gonna take you because you're not real, and no one would miss you." I still don't know what that means. I never babysat for that family again. Couldn't. Sometimes when I'm walking home at night, I still feel like I'm being watched. Like someone's just out of sight, waiting for me to look the wrong way. And sometimes when it's quiet, I swear I hear small footsteps behind me. But when I turn around, there's never anyone there.